Okay, so a couple more things then to look at. The next question that I had was about the subjunctive use in English. Now, before we start this, I should say that the subjunctive is very difficult. Native speakers often don't use this because it is very formal. It's very unusual to hear this in spoken English, in normal English, but some people do use it. And in written English as well, this is also a very typical construction that we have. So, first of all, what actually is the subjunctive? So the subjunctive is a special form of the verb that we use to show that something is necessary or something is important. And we often use this after certain verbs, verbs like recommend, insist, suggest, even adjectives like vital, critical, words like this. So if we have a look at a sentence, like for example, with insist. If we have a look at this sentence, I insist that he pay. Now, for those of you who look at this sentence, you will hopefully see that something is a little bit strange, a little bit unusual in this sentence. And what is unusual? The fact that there is no S on the end of the word pay. We should normally say pays. I pay, you pay, he pays. I'm sure you all know this. So there is no S on the end of this word. And why not? Because this follows insist that. And after the phrase insist that, we use the subjunctive. And the subjunctive is just the infinitive of the verb. Let's take some more water. So we use the infinitive after these constructions. Now, if you have it with anything else other than he, she, it, you cannot tell that it's the subjunctive. For example, I insist that you pay. This just looks normal, nothing special, just like a normal sentence. But grammatically, this is the subjunctive, and it looks exactly the same as the infinitive. The only way that we can see this, that it is actually the subjunctive, is when we have he, she, it, or with the verb be, because obviously be is very irregular. So we can have sentences like, I recommend that he be quiet. Looks very strange, looks very unusual, but grammatically it is correct. And there are certain verbs that we use. I'll just maybe make a quick list of these because it's probably going to be useful if you review this video later. It will be on YouTube, of the verbs that we commonly use this with. So they are the verbs advise, ask, demand, insist, propose, recommend, suggest, and request. If you have these verbs plus that and then a new clause, we then have subject plus infinitive. It's also typical after certain adjectives, which are advisable, anxious, desirable, eager, essential, important, necessary, preferable, vital, and willing. So just as an example, it is vital that he go home now. Something like this would work. So I just want to repeat again that this construction, using these verbs that and then new clause, using the subjunctive, it's very, very formal. In normal everyday spoken English, a lot of people will not use this construction, but it's what is, if you want to be sort of very precise and exactly correct as it should be, then this is how we should be using it. It's very formal. It's very literary even in our language, but this is how it can be. There are a couple of fixed phrases where we also use the subjunctive, which you can just remember these as fixed. We'll list these through and then we will finish up. So a couple of typical ones are so be it, This is a very typical expression, so this means the same as then let it happen. But so be it is a good example of the subjunctive. Bless you. When we want to say like "будь здоров," we say "bless you" in English, which is also a form of the subjunctive. Long live the king. Another example using live, not lives, the infinitive. Be that as it may is also one, which this means whether it is true or not. And one more very typical expression is the phrase if need be, which means if it is necessary. So just a couple of examples with these. So like be that as it may. So for example, let me just put this down here. Just get rid of the first few because they're kind of just stand by themselves. Something like this. We're going to lose. Be that as it may, we're not going to give up. So like even if it is true that we're going to lose, we're not going to give up. And for example, if need be, we can say like, I'll take it to the Supreme Court. If need be. So if it is necessary, I will take the matter, the idea, to the Supreme Court. Okay, so as I said, just to repeat one more time, the subjunctive is extremely formal. Please don't use this like in normal, everyday conversation because you'll sound a little bit old-fashioned. But for written English and for more formal dialogues, this is very typical, very usual, so you can use it in this situation. Okay, so in principle, that's everything I wanted to say today. Does anyone have any questions before we finish? Czy wasze budżety jakieś zapytania? А коли українці вживають формальні форми виразу англійської, розуміють, що це через освіту, а не бажання бути формальним? Я думаю, що так. Yeah, I think we understand this. I think, of course, it depends on the person because if you have a person who has, A2 English and then they are using phrases like if need be, it's a little bit suspicious. But if someone has a good knowledge of the English language and can communicate, then yes, of course. I think most people will understand that it's because of your education and not because you are, so nebажання бути формальним. That's добре, it's true. А може, будь ласка, запитайте.